Welcome back to my channel, my little cherry blossoms. Now you are in for a treat today because you get a whole video without having to look at my face, because I am doing a tack up, groom and ride with me. In fact, it's even better because it's a tack up, groom and gallop with me, because the event season is just around the corner, which means we need to get going with our fitness plans. So today it is Winnie Woo going out. Now she was really disassociating with the fact that she had to go and run fast up a hill. As you can see, she didn't turn around for ages, but eventually she smelt the carrot and over she came, managed to catch her. It's so typical. Normally my horses always come to call unless I'm filming them. And it's just quite irritating. I promise, guys, they are normally really sweet and they canter over, but if they see a camera, absolutely not. Little check on Jammy there, who was taking a whiz, so decided to quickly pan away. And into the barn we go. Guys, don't judge. It's gotten really, really messy again. In fact, I should be really saying, Susie, don't judge. Bless her. I am going to do another little tidy up soon, I promise. Probably won't film it because how many times can we watch that? So Winnie tucks straight into her hay while I realise, oops, everything's on camera, so I should probably pull the disgusting hair out of my main brush. Now, I'm always really, really careful to make sure that my horses have something in their stomachs before they work hard. Obviously, there's been a lot of research recently about the acids in their stomachs and the fact that if they have something in there lining them, it's going to splash around less and hopefully give us less chance of giving them ulcers. So they always, always, always have something to eat before they're worked. So we do a nice brush over. I've left this quite long because it gives you a really good opportunity to actually see how much Winnie's greying out. It's very rare that I'm kind of filming her at this angle and this close, but you can see this patch on her bum there. She's just got so many grey hairs coming through. I'm so intrigued to see how she actually changes this year. Well, this year and throughout her life. I'm convinced she's going to go completely grey at some point, but I just don't know when. She's going to be 7 in June this year, so she is like getting older and still very much looking bay. Made sure that I gave all of her legs a good brush because obviously she's going to be wearing boots, so didn't want any mud rubbing her. And then a nice little bit of hoof picking out. Now, I do need to confess, because this is obviously a point of view video. However, you guys are currently strapped to my chest, not to my head, because I use 2 different cameras. So you're currently on the Osmo at the minute and on my chest, hence why we're getting a few funky views. So quickly decided to fill in the whiteboard. When they're in peak eventing season, I tend to like fill out the whole board in advance, but at the minute, things are still pretty relaxed, so I'm kind of just filling it out day by day. I do have a rough plan in my head of what they're doing throughout the week. I've just been quite lazy and hadn't actually filled it out. So go and grab my tack. Was considering getting a nice fresh new saddle pad, but then realised she's actually going to get really sweaty, so not a lot of point putting on a clean one. We'll use this one more time, and then that can be popped in the wash. Again, here I am apologising for the mess. The lorry is currently very cluttered. Honestly, I have no excuse for it other than the fact that I'm literally just a girl. So what am I to do? I figured I would sort of try and make somewhat of an effort with my boots, you know, give them a little brush off, do them up. To be honest, a completely pointless task because I was going to be undoing them again in like 25 minutes. But there we go. It's the little things in life. It was a little box ticked and it made me felt like I'd accomplished something. So that was that. My overreach boots, again, don't you worry. These do get cleaned after this gallop. But the surface where we gallop is like carpet and really fibrous and it always sticks to the Velcro. So again, I was like, I'm not going to bother cleaning these. Also did not want wet boots going on her because then they're more likely to rub. Had to do a quick mental check of everything and then realised I didn't actually have a hat that didn't fix peak.
Hat, saddle, girth, bridle, neck strap. Boots for me, boots for Winnie, water.
Does anyone else have to do that? Like, I have to say things out loud to be able to remember that I've actually packed them. So after I'd packed the lorry, it was time to move it into position. Look at this. Like, honestly, the way she handles that wheel is iconic. I do think that potentially I could have been like a rally driver or something. But alas, I'm an equestrian influencer. So Lorry is in the right position. Need to get her ready to go. Slightly embarrassing. I did realise I hadn't actually skipped it out last time.
Oh dear. Someone didn't skip it out last time they used it.
Who would that have been?
That was you.
Did I not use it last?
Yeah!
Where did I go?
You took Jam to the vets.
Naughty, naughty, naughty. That was definitely my fault, not Hobbit's. But, you know, where there's blame, there's a claim. So did go ahead and try and pop her under the bus for that one. But I will take full credit. It was me. I will also tell you about Jammy's vet visit a little bit later on in the video because you'll see. Anyway, I obviously had to get cleaning up. I took out the poos and also just did a little bit of a refresh of the bedding. So as you guys will probably know, mine are all on Unibed. The best bed in the world. It's chopped straw. There's different varieties. You can get like a lavender one. You can get miscanthus. I just absolutely love it. I find it really easy to muck out. They're very environmentally conscious, which for me is a massive, massive thing. And also it breaks down so well on the muck heap. Obviously we've got 10 horses and our muck heap gets absolutely huge. So if I can have a bedding that doesn't pile really high and take loads and loads of time to actually decompose, it's a massive win for me. Oh, if you want 10% off your first Unibed pallet, you can actually use my code Elphick10. There we go. Getting all the discount codes in. Anyway, I just put half a bell in. It goes really far, so I just wanted to make sure that there was enough cushion for her for when she's travelling, although it is the shortest journey ever to get to the gallops. So once that was all done, it was time to retrieve Winnie. She was a little bit sceptical. She had heard the lorry move and she wasn't entirely sure what was going on. Now, I'm going to leave this loading bit quite long because I think it's quite useful to show. Winnie wasn't the keenest loader. She's obviously a homebred and I'd done quite a lot of sort of messing around with her as a youngster and trying to get her on and off the box. But she's always just been a little bit sceptical of it. Now, this is the worst she's been in a long time. And that's, you know, obviously she's not being bad at all. But I just wanted to show it is a ongoing process with loading. But she was really good. She was a little bit hesitant, but she didn't pull back. She didn't go off the ramp. It just took a little bit more time than the other like previous times have taken. However, I just implemented all the things that Freddie Steele has taught me. Shout out Freddie. And yeah, she went on. So really, really pleased with how her sort of loading journey is going. And then get the ramp up, and then the cutest little thing, she always talks to you when you're going around the box. So she did a little whinny as I went round to get in to drive off to the gallops.
I know, we're going now.
So as I was editing this, I was thinking how lush the natural sounds were. So I've decided I'm going to put the exact same version out, which is all just natural sounds. A little bit ASMR-y. You've not got me talking in your ear the whole time. There's pony sounds. There's me repeatedly slamming the lorry. It's just lovely. I did actually find it very therapeutic. So that is going to be live on my channel at the same time as this. If you would rather watch that version, or maybe that version as well as. Anyway, it was then time to mosey off to the gallops. As I said before, we are very, very lucky. It is pretty local. It takes probably like 10 minutes to get to the gallop, so not bad at all. Winnie travelled beautifully as ever. They always travel super duper well in the Liberty Horse box. She wasn't entirely sure where she was at the start because this was her first time galloping this year. Well, actually, it's her first time since June. I don't think she was expecting to go to the gallop, so you can see she's a bit like, where are we? And then I think she twigged. She was very excited. So decided to get myself a little bit organised, get my boots on first. Don't judge my socks. They are pretty wacky. And do not worry, I do eventually realise that my boots are pretty horrific and could do with a slight clean. However, it was not very well executed because I used quite a wet sponge, so essentially just left more watermarks on my boots, but you know, I tried, and that is the main thing. So then it was time to go and get the pony off. As I said, she wasn't entirely sure where she was, but as soon as she sort of saw the gallops and realised, obviously they know this place, they know they're galloping when they come here, she certainly, her adrenaline spiked, shall we say. She was quite excited. There was also just quite a lot of noise going on. So this is a working yard. There's other horses here. There was a tractor like behind that big hedge. And you can see she was just like a little bit feral. This is always the worst part, is taking off the head collar and trying to get the bridle on. I always make sure I've got the reins around their neck so that if she did do an absolute runner, I had some kind of way of sort of holding on to her. But she was really good. You can see she's looking around. She's definitely excited. But Winnie is just maturing so much at the moment, because previously she would have completely thrown her toys out the pram. She wouldn't have been able to cope with the environment of noises behind her, and she'd have just had to have sort of exploded a bit to get it out of her system. Whereas now I can look at her and I can be like, you want to explode, but she's getting so good at just sort of suppressing the urge, shall we say. So boots go on, obviously wearing lemure. She's just wearing overreach boots and brushing boots, essentially just to make sure that if she did like strike herself or overreach, that we avoid getting any cuts or anything like that. I'd had my saddle out. Whoa, that was brave, Meg. Completely let go of the horse. This is the struggle of being on your own and trying to tack up. Like, how do you do it? Do you, like, I guess you could tie them up, but I don't really like tying my horses up that much. You can see here she's getting quite excited, a lot of spinning around. So it was really just a race against the clock to try and get the saddle secured so that I could properly hold her at the front. But bless her, there was a lot of noise going on, and I was definitely getting the vibe that she wanted to rear up. So I was like, oh gosh, do I just hold the saddle and hold her properly, or do I try and get it done up quickly?
Oh, you're fine. You're fine, darling. I know you can hear it. Win. Shh. They're just the other side of the hedge. You're fine. Don't you dare rear up. Well done. Let me just get the saddle on and you can do what you want, okay?
Excellent negotiation skills there, Meg. I would be great with children, wouldn't I? You can do whatever you want if I could just do this one thing. Anyway, she was actually being really good, and I did manage to get that buckle on, and then she kind of calmed down. I think the horses know, because obviously I was probably then feeling a little bit stressed and my heart rate was going up, and I think that makes her more stressed and more sort of fizzy. Anyway, we are galloping, so I decided to pop my stirrups up one hole. They were already at like a jumping length, so I didn't want them crazy short. I feel like I'm a little bit less secure when my stirrups are really short. Obviously, it's not a racing saddle or anything like that, so there's only so short you can go. But I wanted a little bit of shortness so that I can get up in my stirrups and actually get out of the saddle and gallop her. Again, little bit of excitement. You can see the tractor there was just disappearing behind the lorry. So that's why she was just like, she's not being naughty at all. I was slightly concerned that she may explode. You can just see in her eye there, like she is a bit worried. So I decided to be sensible and sort of face her away, because technically we are right by the road. Like it's a single track road. It's not busy or anything. But I was like, okay, let's face you away from the road, just in case I get on and you absolutely rodeo. At least we're going off into private property rather than out onto the highway. Give the saddle a good tap, a little love tap. I just put a little bit of weight in the saddle there just to get an idea of like, are you going to shoot off as soon as my bum hits the saddle? But she was absolutely fine. It's just little things like that. Like, I know she's nearly 7, she's not a baby anymore, but because she's a homebred and we've had her from a foal, and obviously I sent her away for breaking, but after that I've done all the work myself. Those little things stick with you when they've been a bit fresh or cold backed as a youngster. So they're just little routines that I keep going with her in moments where she might be a little bit stressed. So first up, we head over the road and to the canter track. I had to get past these scary show jumps first. You see her eyes were just on stalks. She's like, what's going on? Very lucky at this gallops that we have this canter track that I warm up on. I just think it's quite nice to like warm up slowly for them, give them a little bit of a different look, and then they know when they go up the proper gallops, that's where they work. So it's kind of splitting the workload a little bit. Had a good walk round first, and then we're going to trot. Again, it was that moment where your heart's in your mouth. You're like, oh, are they going to explode? All I got was that little head toss, and she was absolutely fine. Her back was a little bit up when I'd first got on her, but like she settled really, really well and really quickly. And again, like, it's just showing me her maturity. She's come a really, really long way, and I think it's just nice that she can like resist the urge to absolutely explode now when she's excited. She's very grown up now, little pony. So have a good trot round. The most important thing when galloping, I always think, is to ensure that you get a really, really good warm-up. Obviously going both directions. That's also handy to make sure they've seen both directions so that she can get those little spooks out of her system. She was being a little bit funny up this end, so there's like, I've sort of got the GoPro at a bit of a wacky angle, but there's a little bit of sort of woodland and hedgy stuff, and I think there was a muntjac in there because you could just hear rustling. I couldn't actually see it, but every time we went past, she had a little spook and a little like throw her head in the air kind of situation. So just kept trotting her. My kind of rule of thumb is, if like, obviously they have to get a good warm up, but if they're being a little bit fizzy, I just do that little bit of extra trotting to make sure that we don't have any silliness in the canter, because I feel like that's when they're more likely to sort of end up kicking themselves or really rodeoing. So she had a good long trot round in both directions, and then I felt she was absolutely fine to have a canter. You can see there's still like a little bit of freshness in there, but honestly I would much rather it that way. Like, I don't want my horses to be coming to the gallops for the first time of the year and to be really flat and deflated, because then, you know, I feel like you've got a problem on your hands there if they're not getting a bit excited. So had a good canter round to the right and then turned her round and went to the left. So this is basically just a big round track, whereas the gallops that we go up is sort of single line and up a hill. You can't just go round and round and round. Love that shot. Oh god, it was such a beautiful sunny day, and the shadow there, I just looked across and I was like, oh, that's so gorgeous. You are actually on my head now as well, guys, forgot to tell you, not on my chest. Anyway, all warmed up. Winnie was feeling good. Again, I made sure she had a nice long walk. You can see there her nostril when she turns a bit, she's like blowing, but I wanted to give her enough of a walk that when we started up the gallops, she'd sort of got her breath back. So head on over back to like the main bit and where the main gallops are. Suddenly thought, oh, I should definitely check my girth, but luckily that was all right. And then when we get to the gallops, because this used to be a working racing yard, they've got like the proper sort of thing where you actually have to pop that up to let people know you're on the gallops. There's never anyone else using it when I'm there, but like I always just make sure it's up, because the last thing you want is someone hurtling up the gallops if you're going to be coming back down it. So went for a nice little trot. The surface on here, as I mentioned earlier, it's like carpet fiber. I've had comments before when I've put this on, to be fair, I think it's on like Instagram or TikTok, where it reaches those non-horsey communities, but people are like, you shouldn't be galloping on gravel. I can assure you guys, it's not gravel, it is a surface. So Winnie was a little bit lucky to start with. There were those horses off in the fields to the right. So again, just gave her a good trot. My first run up the gallops is always just to let her see everything. We don't go too fast, because look, we have these spooks, and the last thing you want is those spooks when you're going really quick, because then they jet off even faster. And because there's no railings on this part of the gallops, it'd be very easy to go off onto the verge. And obviously I don't know what's on the verge. There could be anything. There could be holes. Like, the gallops are really well maintained. They get rolled and harrowed and everything, but as soon as you're on the verge, it's no man's land. So I make sure that we don't go too speedy, and I just suss out where she's going to spook, just so I know for next time when we actually pick up the pace a little bit. So I've left this completely uncut just to give you guys an idea of the length of the gallops. You see we like get into the railings here because it gets a bit ditchy and stuff, and that would be questionable if your horse spooked into the ditch. But yeah, just to give you an idea of the length, so you know how much I'm actually doing. Obviously, as this is the first one of the year, it's like my quietest one. Depending on what the horses are doing, what they're building up for, I get sort of stricter with my galloping and I take it a bit more seriously, and I'll do timed gallops and things like that. But because this is just blowing away the cobwebs, getting her out there, like opening up her lungs and getting her blowing for the first time, I was pretty relaxed as to what I was going to do. So I just did my most basic version of when I'm at the gallop. So that basically includes that first canter up. I wish I could tell you how long this is. I think it's about 5 furlongs, I want to say 4 or 5 furlongs. No, I'm sure it's over 4 because I see the 4 stamp at some point. I could not tell you how long that is in real life. I always forget how long a furlong is in real money. But you are more than welcome to go and Google. And if you do, please let me know in the comments of how long it is. So she does one proper canter up and then a little bit of trot, and then we walk back down. And then this is when we're back down at the bottom. I was just having a little look at those horses. I think they were young, so I was just sort of assessing them to make sure they weren't going to lose their minds unruly, but they were so chilled. And then we go up for our second run. So the second run is where I will open her up a little bit more. You'll see like we're going a bit faster up the hill now. And what I think is really important when you're galloping is to not just be at one pace, because obviously when we're going around a cross-country course, we're coming back, going forward, like we're setting up for fences, and it's really easy to underestimate how much effort that is for the horses. Like the going back and forward is actually harder, I think, than just doing like one flat out pace. So I try and make sure I'm working on that. Like we'll do a slightly more collected canter, then I'll ask her to go forward again. This one you can see I got to the end and I gave her another canter halfway back, and then we went back to trot. Always so important, guys, that when you're galloping, you don't just go gallop and then straight to walk. Make sure you always give them a little bit of a trot off, even between your gallops, and then especially at the end, make sure you give them a good long trot off. We'll talk about that in a moment. But now it's time for my last run off. So she had that trot down, then she had a walk, and then we go back to the bottom and we have our last gallop up. Now, this is the one that I basically use this to assess how much left I've got in the tank. So I let her go off completely by herself to start with. Oh, another little spook at the horses. They were getting sort of more and more interested, so I was quite pleased this was our last time up. I let her pick her own pace. I see what she gives me. And to be fair to her, pretty good. And then you can see there where her ears flick back, that was me saying, okay, what else have you got? And I asked her to go a bit more forward. So it's just a chance to see what they've actually got and how much they're going to give you when you ask for a bit more. Obviously, when you're going cross country, there's going to be a time when you're thinking, oh, I need to make up the time, and you ask for that a little bit more. And it's so nice to know what you can expect, and what, like, it's a great way of telling what they'll give you when they're tired, and then you can sort of know how tired they are. I feel like I'm not wording this very well, but do you know what I mean? Like, you need to know when your horse is tired, does it give you more, or does it say absolutely not? Because that's when you're gonna have to think, when you're going cross country, okay, I need to back off this horse, like I can't ask any more of them. I've worded that in a really roundabout way, but it's essentially getting to know your horse so that you can keep them as safe as possible when you're out cross country. So that was my final gallop, but you can see I went back and forth like almost an entire length in trot. Now the reason I do this is because it's now been proven that trot is actually a better cooldown method for them than walk. It breaks down the lactic acid better. So really important, if your horse has had, like, they've really opened their lungs up, they've had a good gallop. This is where you can tell she's not actually tired. Spooked at something random. Yeah, if they've worked hard, make sure you're giving them a good trot down and then a nice long walk off. So they'll still be blowing most likely when you stop the trotting. So we use the walk to stop them blowing. But yeah, really, really important that they are actually getting a really nice long trot to make sure they're feeling as good as they can the next day. I actually learnt that from Lucinda Fredericks. Obviously, Ellie, her daughter, does a lot of 3-day eventing. I don't really do that. But they have to make sure that after cross country, the horses are going to then be feeling as good as possible for show jumping the next day. So yeah, little tip picked up from Lucinda there. So I then hacked her all the way to the grass gallops. As you can see here, these gallops are insane. I just wanted to go up. Well, firstly, it's nice to walk her up there because I wanted to give her a walk off. But I wanted to see how the ground was. Unfortunately, it is still very wet there. As you can see, a lot of standing water here. But I think in a few weeks' time, hopefully I'll be able to use the grass gallops again. So let me know if you'd like a similar video and I can take you down to the grass gallops. That is incredible for fitness. This was me just experimenting how Winnie's feeling about water this year. Oh my gosh, I was so chuffed. If you've watched her eventing vlogs in the past, you'll know that water's kind of her nemesis. She's a little bit nervous of it. She's still got so much energy in her. Honestly, it's nice to see. When they spook when they're tired, I'm like, yes, this is good because you are actually a lot fitter than I thought. But yeah, I was really pleased that she walked through those puddles of her own accord. Now, I need to apologise here because my GoPro just died and I didn't realise, so I thought I filmed off all of the washing off. Sadly, I have none of it, so we just have to skip back to when I realised, and then I put the Osmo back on the chest cam, guys. But yeah, she had a really, really good wash off. I always make sure that, I mean, in the winter it's not as bad because they don't get as hot, but make sure that they're sort of really cool, and then I spend a lot of time washing off their legs, cooling their legs down. I didn't actually end up icing her legs this time because it's early March, so it is quite cold. And I really cold hosed them there. So I'm very lucky that at the gallops there is actually a hose. So all of her legs were cold hosed, and then they felt great when I got home. So I didn't feel the need to ice them. And then look at that. We are back home again. She travelled really well. Jamie came over to the gate to be like, where have you been? And this is a good time to tell you about Jam because you might be able to see. Oh, I don't know if you can. So essentially, Jamie, the other day, we took her to the vets just to make sure that she was feeling 100%. We gave her a lameness workup after she did her injury. I've just been really paranoid and I wanted to get a vet's opinion basically to tell me she's okay to start the season, and she was looking really fab, but we did just decide to redo her SIs. So she had those injected with steroids. After we had our fall a few years ago, she did actually injure that area. You can see it's just been clipped a bit there. So yeah, we decided to redo those. She's done really well. It's been well over a year, I think 2 years actually, since she'd had them done. So yeah, she just had a little top up of that, which is why she's had a week off. So you might have seen on the board that she has had a few days off. So I obviously got all my tack out but wasn't filming, and then grabbed my boots to give those a little wash off. I just did them in this cold water because, as you can see, all of that surface is stuck to the Velcro, and I realised actually I need a Velcro brush to get this off. So I got as much as I could off, but they have since had like a proper brush to get all of that out, and then I popped them in the washing machine. That is the beauty of the Lemure boots. You can literally just whack them in the washing machine and then they look brand new. So gave them like as good a rinse as I could just to try and save the washing machine, get as much of the mud off as possible. And then they had a nice little hangout to dry, which, to be honest, a bit pointless. Actually, no, it's not pointless, is it? Because it will stop it going mouldy, because we all know that I take my sweet time doing cleaning. So yeah, get them dry and then they can be whacked in the washing machine as and when I'm ready. But that is my tack up, groom, gallop and spook with me. If you guys like these kind of videos, do let me know and I can do some more. But other than that, I live, love, love you, and I'll see you very, very soon.